Oh, it is working. Okay. Hi. Hello. Welcome to 2080, the Galaxy's greatest panel. I'm going to be your moderator. I'm Mavael, and I am the co-host droid of the 2080 podcast in orbit every Wednesday. And all of our guests, a wonderful lineup over here.
You're so far away.
I know. I hate it. He said you're going to be at the podium. I said I fucking hate that for me. We have Kanayama. We have Jock. Honestly, we couldn't ask for a better lineup of people to represent 2080 being actually the Galaxy's greatest pod. And I'm going to give you a softball to start things off, because, I mean, at least speaking for Jock, we were just down at pub. So kick it off for me. Kelly.
Yeah?
How did you start getting into 2080? What was your introduction?
It was, actually, I got into 2080 around 2013, just through a comics page, like a sort of comics fan page I was sort of part of at the time, and people kept talking about Judge Dredd, and I thought, okay, I've heard of that, but, you know, I've not read it, but I've read of it, and I thought I should check this out, and I looked some of it up, and I thought, this rocks. I started right from the beginning, and I thought, yeah, this rocks, and so, yeah, I went from there, and I found out that it was in a magazine called 2080, and so I checked that out, and yeah, now here I am.
God, you started at Prog 1? You just started from the beginning?
Well, I like to know how the things, you know, I like to know what's going on at the beginning. This is why I have trouble jumping into TV series and things halfway through.
Or even accidental slaps you at the park.
Yeah.
What about you, Jack?
So I was kind of slightly late coming to it. I was about 13, 14, and I loved to draw, but I hadn't really read any comics. I had a couple of Superman or Batman sort of annuals, Christmas annuals. And then a friend had one of the Eagle comic reprints of Judge Dredd with the Brian Bolland cover of him hanging onto a bus going over a freeway, and I was just like, what is this? And I remember thinking I saw a Krog as well as some Brendan McCarthy art, and I remember thinking I didn't even really know what it sort of was, if that makes sense. But I sort of thought, I don't know what this is, but this is now what I want to do, and it became the kind of funnel for me for my drawing, basically. And I'm sure for all of us from our sort of generation, I was so lucky to find it at that time because of the talent that was working in its pages. And immediately I became just like a rabid sort of collector of all the progs, and it was like seeing some Brian Bolland or Mick McMahon or Steve Dillon and Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore and having that as your sort of base level, that's what this thing is. I think I realised now was pretty lucky because that gave me the sort of the kind of the springboard to sort of you realise what the high quality stuff that you were seeing when you're a kid as well. You just go, oh, it's this, but it was actually amazing at that time, and I feel very lucky that I discovered it when I did, and that gave me this sort of the kind of impetus to draw comics, and here we are.
I was about 12, 13 when 2000 started. I was never interested in it at all because it wasn't Marvel. I was only interested in Marvel comics, so I read the odd issue, Prog. It wasn't until I was about 18, my girlfriend's brother had a few issues, the ones that Steve Dillon drew of Dredd when he's a werewolf or something.
Yeah,
and that was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So I started buying it every week since then. I've dropped off in recent years, but all the way through the end of school and art college and the first few years working every week.
Yeah, I was 7 Wow, that's not far off the first issue. Fell in love with it straight away. I mean, anyone who remembers that stuff from the time, it was unimaginably wonderful. There were dinosaurs and a madman with a shotgun and future sport and Ganter doing weird stuff, monsters that sucked you inside them and dissolved you. It was mind-blowing stuff for a little kid. And I really stuck with it for the next good long while, certainly the classic period. Few years after that ended, I worked for it myself, did pretty universally appalling work for it. Not long after that, I kind of lost touch with 2000 AD, with the exception of John Wagner's work, which I continued to follow. Always find his stuff not just entertaining, but very interesting to maybe from a writer's perspective. And as I say, lost touch with it largely, and then just in the last 2 or 3 years I've started working for it again, and I've gotten more of a sense of what's going on in 2000 today.
Now, so you had your softball question, everybody, but unfortunately, my co-host Mulcher and I had a question today, which was like, what is your underrated 2000 AD character for you?
Well,
That I want to know.
I mean, he wasn't at the time, but Sam Slade, Robo Hunter, I think has somehow been lost in the mix. Whereas at one point, Wagner and later Grant and Gibson were doing absolutely stunning work on that story. It's so incredibly inventive. Starts out as a sort of future detective noir pastiche, turns into a madcap comedy, but always my favorite. And as I say, does seem to have gone by the wayside a bit.
Mine was the little boy that steals a flower for his love in the Insanity Mega City 1, and he sneaks into like an oasis in the concrete jungle, and he steals a little flower, and I want to know what happened to that kid.
I'm going to ask about that. It's a long time since I read it, I can't remember.
I feel like everything you say is going to sound really dumb after. That's so sweet.
And I was thinking, I know everyone hates Walter, but I feel like, you know, that is a character who could have, he's due a, or a revisit, I think.
We gotta.
Hands up, is Walter the Robot due a revisit? Hands up.
Yes! See, he's Vinci, if everyone raised their hands, he would be underrated.
We had a podcast question earlier where somebody asked like a fuck, marry, kill question for Walter Woba, Ucko, and who was it? The Gronk. And like we were sitting there really trying to figure it out, and now I kind of feel like based on the hands, like who would have picked fuck at least. Like they're so that's pretty good. At least we've got that. And Kelly, actually.
I feel like Walter with you would be married, because, you know, stuff would get done around the house.
Oh, I was waiting for that explanation. Okay, why don't we hear a little bit about what 2000 AD work, I mean, you've all respectively worked with 2000 AD. What is it that you feel the most connection to with this title, with this brand, with this cultural icon that's been created under this name?
I think for me it's always been Judge Dredd, because so many great people have done it. And to get to do it ourselves, I'm sure what's the same. You stand on the shoulders of giants, and no matter how, in your head, how great you think you are, you're not compared to that. You know, even though I didn't start reading 2000 quite late, I went back and read all the McMahon stuff and KLO-E and people like that. And, you know, you just can't touch that stuff. And I think the character's so good at allowing lots of different types of stories. It can be funny ones, it can be serious ones, it can be political ones, or whatever. it's a broad church stuff, so I think that's probably the best thing.
For me, it's Sam again. I think one of the things I've always hopefully been good at is separating what is objectively the best from what I love the most, and it's not always the same thing. I mean, I think if you look at the first 10 years of 2000, you narrow it down, probably the best single strip is Nemesis the Warlock. It might have been Halo Jones, but that got cut down in its prime. But I like Robo Hunter better because there's something wonderful about the sheer and seeing creativity of the thing, and also I can trace it into my own work. I think I like Sam as well because he's only in it for the money. He's not an automaton lawman. He's not a tortured future bounty hunter who keeps killing people. That might be the problem, Johnny. He's not an anarchist freedom fighter, and he's not slaying wanting to be king of his tribe. He's just trying to make the rent. And in fact, when he made his money, he actually quit. And I thought there was an interesting sort of little, possibly accidental commentary there. How many of our favorite comic book characters, if they had any agency, would keep doing what they were doing for our entertainment if they had any say in the matter? Well, Sam did suddenly get a say in the matter, and he went to Hawaii, and I thought that was pretty great.
My favourite story is Halo Jones, I have to say, because again, like looking back, you realise how lucky you were. Sort of, you know, arguably that's a bit of a subversive thing to do in 1986 in a boys' comic. But maybe you're the same. When I read it, it's just a fucking great story. It was, that was that. But I'm the same as Sean. It's Dredd really for me. He's still sort of my favourite character, even though I'm kind of glad I don't draw him all the time, because when you're young and full of beans, you think that you can just draw the costume, but the uniform is just hellish. But yeah, it was that Dredd image that made me want to do what I'm doing. So it's to me, he's the thing that he was the catalyst that made me sort of love not only the comic but what I do basically. So it's got to be Dredd.
Sure.
And then you guys don't have to share on my
Correct.
Okay. Got it. And then I can have this one. And everyone gets some.
Check, 1, 2.
I mean, I suppose in a way it's a good question because I love pretty much everything in the first 10 years. I can count the ones I don't like on the fingers of one hand, and I'm a thumb left over.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it all.
This is odd. I never read Nemesis the Warlock. For some reason, clearly Kevin O'Neill is a genius, but for some reason, I just, when you're a bit young, you just sort of gravitate towards certain sort of. I've still to this day never read it.
I read it when Brian Talbot was drawing it a little bit, because I met Brian when I was at art college.
Yeah.
I went to college in Preston with Brian, went there 10, 15 years before me. We had a tutor in common who wasn't into comics. I did graphic design, everyone else did comics as far as college went. So he said, I know someone still lives here, does comics. So I did some sample pages, I went around to see Brian. And he had Nemesis spread on his drawing table. First I was impressed that he had a room for just drawing, and he didn't do it in the kitchen in his bedroom, in the studio. But he had, I can't remember, his Nemesis story is like a double-page spread. It's not through the 7 pages that week, and it's sort of like it wasn't a Comic-Con, but it's some sort of convention thing in the story.
It rings a bell.
And I was just totally amazed by the amount of work he put into it.
Yeah, 2000, he's always had, art-wise, obviously writing-wise as well, but art-wise particularly. I remember when I first started working there, I was going, Andy Diggle was the editor at the time. I ended up working with Andy a fair bit. In fact, you were instrumental in that, Garth, because Ennis, who's here this weekend, looked at Lenny Zero story because of you, so thank you. I've never said thank you in person.
You're welcome.
So I used to go see Andy in the office, deliver some art, and we go down to the pub and have a couple of pints and chat about stories and stuff. But he'd open the drawer in the nerve centre, And I remember at the time, I think it was about 2000 I started working there, and they had some Henry Flint's Nemesis. Do you remember like when he did the Nemesis? It's like he's leveled up a bit, kind of. It was kind of. Oh really? Oh, it is cool. But like he opened the drawer, and I sort of, maybe in a similar way to Brian, I just sort of got this kind of like, holy shit. And Andy just went, you can feel the thrill power, can't you? And I went, yes.
I had a similar thing once I went into the office. We'd done for the radio, again, we delivered artwork, you turn up at Friday lunchtime, and then you spend the rest of the afternoon in the pub and they pay. But yeah, whoever was
well, Andy never paid.
Dave Bishop or Steve Mack, whoever was there, there's an opens drawer and it was Bisley's Horn God.
Oh my God.
And that radiated
like
the drawer.
You can feel it. Yeah.
Why didn't we bother trying?
Yeah.
That was back then, everyone was told to draw like Bisley as well.
Yeah.
Like Bisley. That was
Did it
Were
help
they
you to do that?
told?
Because I always felt like your painting stuff, I love your painting stuff, as you know, but like, it's almost like you flirted with it, but you didn't really
I couldn't do it,
Yeah.
it's too hard.
No, but yeah. It was just better.
Well,
I've spoken to other
I can tell the story.
Okay, alright. Maybe not on the panel.
No, I can tell the story. That's not Simon's strength, is it, shall we say?
But it is interesting.
Shots
I think,
fired.
I was going to say, don't tell him.
For the first time, they were actually
He's gonna
saying all my stolen because it seems to me up till then the whole point of the 2080 art tradition was there was no attempt to copy each other. McMahon can follow Bolland, Talbot can follow O'Neill, Ballardinelli can follow Gibbons, and vice versa. I mean, these are the most disparate art styles imaginable, and yet the characters are strong enough that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So one of what I alluded to earlier was that was what it gave me. I was like, oh, this gives me license to do whatever I think I want to do, essentially. And like, you know, it's like at the time, like a really cool record label that had kind of great artists signed from 1976 or something. Do you know what I mean? Like 2000 felt like that. It was like you got these amazing creators that were just doing their own thing.
It was a British comics tradition. You saw it in other titles as well that America didn't have at the time. There was a house style at Marvel, and you did that. You followed that. That shitty color they put over everything made it even worse. But you know they've gotten there since.
Yeah.
But at the time, no, 2000 AD, I think championed that wonderful diversity in art style.
I think it only came along when Bisley started painting as well, because all of a sudden they wanted more painted strips in the comic, and his was the best bit of painting, so we were all told to.
I've spoken to other artists from that time, and that arguably were like a bit damaged by that, you know, because you can't.
I know we've been working for 10 years by then, so it's all, like I sort of flirted with it, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Does that make it harder for you guys as artists? Like, because you like you said, Sean, it's you know, you're on the shoulders of giants, and you know, you also are kind of, there is no house style, so you're being given freedom to go present this future how you want to. Does that make it like more difficult for you to render things?
I think it gets difficult sometimes. I've drawn Dread a few times over the years. With Garth, I did it as a painted strip, and I've done some black and white and stuff. And every time I tried, there'd be years between jobs. I've seen something else that influenced me. You try to do it a different way, and just but that's what's good about 2000 is that you can take all those styles. As an individual artist, it's quite hard to figure out what your own version is.
Yeah, it took me a while, but looking back, I sort of realised kind of at the same time, you've just got to go, right?
Yeah.
The minute you put the board on, you know, the paper on your drawing board, it's like, okay, I guess it's me now, you know, and it's easier to chase something than to do it, you know, it's easier to imagine what you might be like when you get to the point where you're published by DC or to that, you know what I mean? Yeah. And there's a horrifying moment when that blank bit of paper for the first time is there, and I was not good enough, you know, in my own mind, and my mind is very clear if you look in your art book, but you know, like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough, but you have that sort of, I don't know whether it's like a youthful sort of, you just go for it and you try, but the 2080 sort of ethos, whatever it is, that we're maybe kind of skirting around is kind of, I just thought, well, okay, I'm gonna go, I'm going to try. And then it gave me license to do that. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to fit in with the house style, I need to do it like this, and it should be more like this. It's like, no, I love Dread, it's my favourite, so I'm going to just do what I think Dread should look like. And yeah, again, I think that's very lucky to be in that
as
spot.
a writer guy, following writing Dread after writing a drama, how do you feel?
At the time,
the artist is easy because there's been hundreds of
yeah, at the time it was actually my adherence to what they'd done that undid me, because I couldn't bring any of myself to it. It didn't help that I was 20 and I had nothing original to say. But where that served me better, that 2000 AD tradition, has been its influence on my work as I've gone to America and maybe brought something to American mainstream comics that they wouldn't have gotten without that 2000 AD tradition. It's interesting when you look at writing in 2000 AD. You obviously you end up with Mills and Wagner.
Yeah.
I mean, there are others. Moore is again a sort of minor pain. Had Halo Jones been sorted out, that probably would have been up there with Watchmen, but it's Mills and Wagner, and those two as influences on me are absolutely undoubted. They're a very interesting pair of writers. One incredibly imaginative, goes off on wild tangents, lectures, frankly. That's bad. John, not as imaginative. All his characters are, his great characters are, if you think about it, in the kind of pulp tradition. There's a cop, there's a bounty hunter, there's a private eye. They're all gunfighters, essentially, and they're all that same stoic tough guy. But John is a more careful writer because I think he thinks more carefully about the world that he puts them in. Watching him explore the world of Dread once he split from Alan Grant and went out on his own and started asking questions about what Justice Department was like and how it functioned and what its personalities were. I find that absolutely fascinating to read over the years. That's why I stuck with John and not others.
Is it difficult for you to try and write the future? Because it's all sci-fi. It's all meant to be the future. Is it, especially right now, is it hard to kind of think of that kind of dystopia? Is it hard to come up with your own version of that?
In 2000, I mean, I do a limited amount of work for them. Rogue Trooper might be the best example in that that's the one I've written the most of recently. And that's more sort of exploring the world, although it is interesting to sort of tie that strip to universal notions of conflict. It is, after all, about a world that has been entirely ruined by war.
We're getting there.
We certainly are. We're working hard at it. So that's been kind of interesting. Again, that might be something where you could trace those particular veins in my work for other publishers as I do more creator-owned stuff. I mean, different topic, but 2000 AD's lack of a creator contract means that we're all only ever going to do so much for them. And we might not do, it might be more a case of exploring what already exists rather than inventing new.
Well, it's something like Rogue Trooper too. You are given conflict. You're given a war story that is also meshed in with sci-fi, and it's almost like the emotional weight behind war is almost given physical manifestation. Like, is that how is that for you to unpack as a writer? Like to really have to give this character the opportunity to move through these stories with that actually, like the physical part of it being present as well.
Well, I think it probably started with the tragic element of it. Rogue's story begins with him losing everyone he cares about in one night, more or less one night. The Port Zone massacre sees all his friends killed and 3 survivors reduced to dead souls on microchips. So he wanders the world of New Earth on a sort of vengeance quest, driven on by, I suppose, the wishes of his friends and his need to avenge them. But at the same time, he remains quite a humane character. There are numerous instances where Jerry Finley-Day as Bagman, Gunner, and Helm want to do things that Rogue just won't do. It's not just Gunner, not just the Psycho and the rifle. They have a very different view of things than Rogue does. Rogue's still a living, breathing person, and he responds to other living, breathing people, whereas the biochips, they might not care as much. So it's that sort of dichotomy with the quest for vengeance and the need to do some good, even if it's just fighting for his side, that I think drives most of what is interesting about that character.
And how does that feed into something like Battle Action? Ooh, look at this. How does, because for all intents and purposes, I mean, we haven't, whether in the UK or in America, we just don't really see war comics anymore. It's not really a thing. It's something that kind of petered out ages ago. And so with something like Battle Action, how are you rewriting that?
I mean, to start with the first part of your question, it's really the other way around, because it was battle and then action that fed into 2000 AD. You have a very successful war comic. You have action, which would have been a big success, and then just got killed in its prime. And then third time, they hit the jackpot with 2000 AD. It's like everything they've been aiming for comes good in that one. But yes, they did start with a war comic, because that was pretty safe ground in 1975. And that is where that 70s renaissance in British comics comes from. Because action was killed, it was folded into battle, that became battle action. That happened to be the best 3.5 years of that title's existence. That's something I read as a kid, because I can trace these creative pathways back to battle and the characters that appeared in it. That's something that I thought was worth reviving, just to see if there was any life left in them. I'm pleased to say there has been.
Oh, there definitely is.
Yeah, more to come.
Good. I'm very glad to hear that. And while we're introducing books, oh, Sean, what's this?
Yes.
Oh! Absolutely gorgeous book. Talk to me a little bit about this, because all I see is a giant dread and a giant devil maw, and it makes me very happy.
Also, this is a collection of all everything I did for 2000 AD and the Judge Dredd magazine, apart from the main Devil War story, because that's collected elsewhere. So,
Swimming in blood.
yeah, so not including Swimming in Blood, it's everything else. So all the little short, I didn't do any future shots, but I did, what was another name from? I can't remember what it's called.
Time Twister?
No, I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, yeah, the little 3-4 page stories, did a few of those, and
Future Shocks.
Sorry?
Future Shocks.
No, not Future Shocks,
No?
they're called something else. And they did Strange Cases in the magazine, and a couple of those as well. So it's just a collection of all that stuff, but it's weird because when I was being interviewed for the book, like a year or so ago, it was so long ago since I was drawing stuff, I forgot most of it. Most of it's like 30 years old, probably longer than that, some of it. The first time I wrote 1989, I think it was. I did the first couple I did, which I did on spec just for fun. And then I was really working on Crisis Comics at the time, so I just took it to the office and said, oh, I want to use this. So
They did?
Yeah. It took a long while. It took like a year for me to use it, so someone must have let down at the last minute. It was very good.
When the magazine was, did you do all the design?
I did, yeah. And that was before computers as well, so that was all pasted up, this and type and
Before
stuff.
computers.
Yeah, so I did the magazine, designed the logo and all that stuff.
Amazing.
First year or two.
How was it like revisiting your work? Did you sort of see the pages coming in and sort of see what they were?
It's weird because it's all in chronological order in the book, so I can see lots of dead ends where I would try stuff. That's what's good about doing things like short stories.
Yeah.
I find that still now. You can go and try some new technique or style or materials, whatever. It doesn't work, it doesn't really matter, because then you go back and try a different avenue. And It used to be like that for like monthly comics as well, before they got collected. Because back when I say drawing Hellblazer Day, which is the same time I was doing 2000 AD stuff, it didn't matter that it was a terrible issue because it got replaced the next month by another one. It's not until it gets collected 30 years later that you realise.
Trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is kind of wild being able to like look through. I haven't actually gotten to look at this yet, so I'm sitting here like flipping. Oh my god! And like, is it odd for you being able to look through like this beautiful body of work and seeing it all collected and just perfect printing? How it was meant to be seen, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of well because most of it wasn't shot for the original art because that's all long gone. So I think whoever was in charge of the production did an amazing job, make it look good. I don't know. It's weird because on one hand, yeah, it is 30 years ago. It feels like a long time ago, but then I can remember what room I was sat in, what music I was listening to when I was drawing some of that stuff. So some of it takes you right back.
Oh, what music were you listening to when you did Armitage?
Oh, I don't know. What year was that? No, I can't remember what I listened to them. Probably just Elvis, like I do anyway.
Honestly, it was great as well. I thought the paint stuff on that was fantastic.
And that was a weird one because I hadn't done much painting stuff before Armitage, and that was felt like I was trying to figure out what to do as I went along. So the first say 10 pages is all over the place, lots of different techniques. And then it sort of solidifies halfway through the second episode.
I never cracked it. Like, I painted, but I never cracked.
It's like one of my favourite comics is Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah.
I like it much better than Batman Year One, even though the story wasn't really good. Because you can see David Mazzucchelli develop as an artist.
Yeah.
The first episode or two, he's sort of feeling his way, even though he'd been drawing comics for 5 years of it. But then it sort of suddenly matured quite quickly. And Duncan Grader's saying in Enigma, it's like Enigma number 4, I think. It's like halfway through, it suddenly turns into Duncan.
Yeah.
Before then, it was sort of like him scrapping around trying to figure out how to do it.
Because he'd only done
painting art before then. That's his first black and white stuff as well, so trying to figure out on the job. Because you have to do all this stuff on the job. None of us have spare time to sit around, fuck around, trying out a new pen or something. You just do it.
Yeah. I didn't get a computer Mac until 2003, and my first, my friend John, who sat over there, used to composite some digital stuff when I was doing Letter Zero in 2008. But I didn't get a Mac until 2003, and my first thing I tried to do in Photoshop was the Losers cover #1, and then I had to learn in the shop front, like every month, and figure it out live. There's something in trial by fire. It's
my first computer thing was a Hellblazer cover, and it's a painted cover, and I did it with a mouse. I didn't even have a tablet or a pen then. So I don't know how I've done that.
I think that's maybe around about the time I first met you, all those years ago. And I remember you were championing it because the white was actually white.
Yes, you can control how things print.
Yeah, and when you paint physically, the scan, the repro is always a little bit after you. Sort of, I remember seeing original painted stuff and realising that it looks about 40% better than you saw like in the printed thing, because you had to paint brighter because it would be scanned and printed and I remember you saying, like, I do this thing, the white is actually white. It's not this weird kind of like muted
red is
grey.
proper red and all that stuff.
Do you have a preference? Do either of you have a preference for like analog versus digital?
I like both.
I like the mixture. I think, yeah.
I'm sure being able to touch things up with technology.
Yeah.
It's probably much better now.
I don't think do it like that. You start with a drawing and then digitize.
So the interior pages I still do.
Yeah, I mean,
but when I scan them in, I might pop in a wee background.
I remember on sort of digital painted stuff where
it
starts off on paper, then you get your Photoshop at the top.
With comics, I still essentially draw with ink, but for Phillips.
You can't beat a pen on paper or pencil on paper.
It's magic.
Yeah, unless it's going really badly. Yeah.
Jock, guess what I'm going to ask you about?
I don't know.
Oh, look at this. We also have the Jock art book. Tell me about it. Because I've seen too much of it because we did this at San Diego a little bit early.
Right.
And so now it's finally available.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful book. The production value is amazing. it is odd going through. So you've done other stuff before 2000 like that. That's my first ever work, and sorry, excuse me, and it is odd going through it again, you know. But also I find I recognise what I was kind of going for, even though maybe my craft wasn't quite there, or my drawing wasn't great in this thing, or whatever it is. But it is funny seeing really old work collected. But you know, 2000 AD Dread particularly is such a I adore him. So it's actually it's lovely to see it in a beautiful package. You know, even though I can look at it and go, well, that's not a great arm, is it? You know, look at the elbow. That little module is missing. What are we doing there?
It's so bizarre, like that you're saying you're looking through this and seeing like flaws in it. Where?
Chloe, bless your heart. Come on, man. There's a lot of flaws in that book, right? But maybe there's a charm in that when you
I think
you know.
for both of our books, because it's old stuff, you can see our enthusiasm when we were
Yeah,
young and kid.
yeah.
And it sort of gets past the one
Yeah.
drawing or the...
Yeah, and there's something in that, isn't there? I think there really is something in that. When I was hungry, I was pure, arguably, and I was just trying to just do it, you know, and figure it out. And so maybe I see something in it differently, you know, I guess, to sort of what
Artists are nitpicky. That's how it works.
I guess, but funny enough to my painted pages, so this also collects basically everything I did for 2000 AD, apart from a painted strip that I just said, don't print that. Like, oh no, I'm not having that in the book, because I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't, like the odd panel is okay, you know, I painted a lot, and the odd panel's okay, but I just couldn't figure out sequential painted pages. Like I always felt your stuff had a real sort of vibrancy, and like it moved like a comic page should move. Whenever I tried to paint pages, it kind of deadened it, you know, it kind of slowed it down, and I just couldn't.
I think everyone feels that way.
Maybe.
But you have to be your own harshest critic.
Yeah,
Whether it's writing or art, you can't, you dare not accept things like fine, solid, not bad.
No.
But then you've got to let it go, because it's
Nice.
you've got a deadline and you've got to
Yeah.
pay and
Oh yeah, but as what I mean is, as a critique later, when someone says, you know, that was fine, or I liked it, or, and of course you allowed your opinion, but you have to say to yourself, that wasn't acceptable, and I can't rely on work that I don't think is good enough, because that way lies madness. If you've seen Train Spotting, Sick Boy and Rents at one point are talking about this, and it's like, well, you say no bad, but when you say no bad, you really mean shite. And that, I think, is a pretty good rule.
But I suddenly feel like I brought the book down, and I'm so sorry. If anyone wants to, I mean, I am actually, all joking aside, I'm very proud to see it collected in such a beautiful edition. It has all the 2000 stuff. It has my Dread movie work in it as well. There's a lot of stuff in there, and obviously Dread meaning what he means to me. It's not easy.
That's the flip side, right? That for the observer, it's a fascinating compendium of your work, and it's of academic interest to the observer that you don't like certain things in it, but it shouldn't change their opinion.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because like you're saying, I was clearly striving. You know, I might not be satisfied with elements, but I don't think. I think comics in general are great like that. I think when you read a comic, you can tell whether the writer's vibing or the artist is cooking. You know what I mean? You can sort of feel it in the page.
And I bet everyone in the room has a beloved comic, movie, book, TV show, you name it, that the creators have disavowed through sheer hatred. Mine's Kelly's Heroes, which Clint Eastwood doesn't like one bit. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter, because it becomes something else.
Yeah,
like it goes
that's
out
what
into
it
the
means
world.
to you.
Yeah.
Kelly, you're kind of the wild card here. So it's you know, all of these guys over here, artists, right?
Yes.
And your job is to talk about these things.
Yeah.
How do you, as a fellow critic, it's not easy.
No.
How do you go about bringing people into the fold, so to speak, when it comes to 2000 AD as a critic?
That's a good question. I think in some ways it maybe is a little easier for me to do it because you can probably tell by the accent, I didn't grow up here. I live in Dundee now. I've been in the UK for 18 years, but you know, I didn't grow up with 2000 AD, and it was something I discovered, you know, and so I think it wasn't in the background. It wasn't the background hum for me. And so when I'm writing about it, when I'm talking about it, whatever, you know, I think there's a lot that I feel like, you know, I can explain it in terms of other things, or the comics, what have you. One of the things I learned in my research is, you know, not just how many, you know, British and UK comics creators from 2000 AD went over to America in the sort of late 80s and early 90s, but how, you know, those comics shaped, you know, the comics that they then created were, for like Vertigo and stuff, were instrumental in redefining what comics could be and what they could say and the kind of stories they could tell. And so that setting the bar for just comics, which then make their way into, you know, superhero, like for superhero properties, you know, every single movie and TV show and streaming offering nowadays. That, you know, a lot of it you can trace back to 2000 AD, and so I think people are aware of this sort of thing, even of what 2000 AD kind of had going on, even if it is just this little sort of undercurrent that they might not recognize at first, but it's there. And so all you have to do, I feel like, is just kind of connect all the dots, and you see that if you've seen, I don't know, like a Batman movie or something, you can draw the line all the way back, with some bubbly bits along the way, but yeah.
I mean, there's so many movies and music and like so many like just little cultural zeitgeist moments that do, like the joke is it all ties back to 2000 AD, but I mean it does.
Yeah.
It kind of does. It was the OG version of like sci-fi dystopia, sci-fi war, and all of these things. And do you find people to be receptive to the idea of 2000 AD kind of being the originator of a lot of these things, but also that there are comics outside of America. There are comics outside of DC and Marvel and Image.
Yeah. What I find most interesting actually is people's reactions or people's takes on Judge Dredd, or more specifically on Mega City 1, because you know, Mega City 1 is supposed to be in America, but I think now they do have like non-British, non-UK, non-Irish writers writing it, but for the longest time it was very obviously, you know, this kind of fantasy version of America, and the point was, it was, you know, this this sort of, not browser, I'm trying to think of the word, locus for all these cultural anxieties that were happening for the writers and the artists, and who were mostly not American. I mean, John Wagner is, you know, Scottish and American, but yeah, I think that is the thing that sort of throws people the most, I would say. Not that comics exist in, you know, places that aren't America or Japan, but that, you know, someone could write about America or depict America in this very incisive way, but, you know, they weren't necessarily thinking about America, the nation. They weren't thinking about that, and that concept of like, America's not the center of the, when someone writes about America, America's not the center of the universe.
You're talking about America, the vibe.
Yeah, America, the vibe, and also, if you say like, oh yeah, this is America, then you can get away with, in Britain you can get away with more stuff. Because then you can say, oh no, see, I'm not saying Britain's like that. I'm saying America's like that. So, don't get mad at me. Get mad at them over there, don't get mad at me. Yeah, I think to kind of explaining that is where is the hard part.
I mean, yeah, it is actually.
Yeah. But it's about America, so it's America. Like, no, okay. Yeah.
We're kind of coming up on our time.
Oh boy.
So I would love to go down and for all of you to tell me what it is that you're working on right now.
For 2000, I've got a couple of short stories coming up. A little bit further down the line, there's a Tharg story for what will be the 50th anniversary Prague. There's a
50.
Oh. Get some work done before everybody dies. There's a Robo Hunter story, funnily enough, for next year's annual. And there will be an action special next year, I think around about April, because next year is 50 years of action. So I've written Dredger, John Higgins has drawn it, Hellman, Mike Dory's drawn it, Steve White's done Hookjaw with Stas Johnson, I think, and Rob Williams has done Look Out for Lefty with Paddy Goddard. So keep an eye out for those.
I've just finished working on the criminal TV show, and now I'm almost finished the next criminal book as well. That'll be out in May, I think. I only do stuff with everybody nowadays. I haven't done anything else for maybe 20 years, maybe for anybody else. So yeah, just doing that stuff. Criminal until the show flops.
Criminal until the show comes out and your royalties go insane. How many books is there? How many books are there?
The last one is straight out of the 11th one, and the next one, the one we're working on is the 12th. Yeah. We've got a big backlist.
Yeah.
You've got copies of all of them at my table.
Comics wise, I've just done an issue of Absolute Batman with Scott Snyder. It's the Absolute Joker issue, which tracks for me doing that with Scott. It's been great seeing that title become a bit of the monster that it is. And I've done key art for a new Wolverine computer game, PS5 game, follow up to Insomniac's Spider-Man game. I've just done the key cover art and I'm doing a bunch more stuff for that, which I hope to work on that. Oh, and the Witches TV show as well, funny enough. Speaking of, Scott Snyder's co-showrunning, he's co-writing, I'm overseeing the visuals. It's an animated adaptation of a comic book Witches that we did in 2014 with Amazon Studios, and we get the first fully animated scenes back next month, so I'm excited to see those.
Oh, I've got all these different writing and critical projects, like just all over the place. I'm sort of returning to more long-form stuff after an unexpectedly extended leave of absence for maternity reasons, and yeah, I also write. Well, I write a very sporadic column on Shelf Dust called Kings of the Castle, which is all about bootleg. I call it bootleg Punishers, so different characters who've been the Punisher who aren't Frank Castle, or Punisher alikes in other stuff. There's going to be a John Wick one at some point. Yeah, I've written about Nigel Higgins, the British Punisher, which is a very fake sounding name, and Pat Mills's Punisher 2099, and some other things.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much. It was a joy to talk to all of you. Can everybody please give a round of applause?